Good morning or afternoon, whenever you're watching this. I am Nell Madigan, the Associate Dean for the School of Labor and Employment Relations, and I am with
Erin Mies, and I am the Career Consultant for the online MHRIR program at the School of Labor and Employment Relations.
And Erin is also a graduate of our master's program and has done a lot of recruiting of our on-campus students to companies like General Mills, like Land O'Lakes, and now like PeopleSpark Consulting, her own business. So we're very excited to have her with us. We know that alumni are not always at the top of our pile for career services work because we have to help the students that are paying tuition. But we know that with COVID and with a lot of changes in the job market, it's important to help you guys think about your next steps and figure out a path forward if you find out that you're coming back on the job market unexpectedly. And we can't always dedicate a ton of time for this to help you from our office, but we want to be able to assist you when that's possible. So we're putting together this video today to help you get organized and help you make a great next step.
Absolutely. And as we get through, there's a few things that we'll cover even on this video here today. One, just around processing the loss, and so understanding kind of how even you can work through that job change, through that potential job loss as well. What some of the first steps are that you can take, and then how to start building your momentum as you go through that search. So as you go through kind of processing the loss, this is a really good time to really reflect and evaluate overall, just what are some of the things that worked really well? What are some of the things that you really didn't care for in previous role, but that you tolerated or that you put up with? And I feel very strongly about this, just simply because I've been through this myself. So I've been in these shoes, and remember what it's like when you're kind of in that and not really sure what might be next. And so part of that is really developing your own strategy and figuring out what exactly some of your own expectations were going to be for yourself. So for instance, when my role was eliminated, I had a strategy that if my job search potentially was going to take a certain period of time, and that's based on some personal needs I had that had some very strong due dates, that if certain things didn't happen within a certain period of time, I had some contingency plans built into place where I would take something temporarily or something more of a consulting type gig, something again more on the temporary side, until I was able to get back into more of a full-time search in my career. And quite honestly, I think of even just some of the things that are available today, like Fiverr, like Upwork, there's and like some of the temporary and more gig type roles that are out there, that I think having that strategy and knowing even what some of your own fallbacks look like can help you even in reframing and keeping your mindset in a place where you can be very powerful in moving forward. Now, what would you add there?
I would definitely. So what I've been telling the students, obviously it hasn't been a great year to be an on-campus student at LER. And I think it's really easy to get mired in, oh, it's a pandemic, I can't leave the house, I only go to the grocery store. But talking about, in that the gig idea that you had, what did you do during the pandemic? How did you make the most of your time? What did you learn? And when this hit a year ago, we scrambled and got corporate projects for students to work on who lost their internships or who weren't able to secure internships because of COVID. And the ones that were smart really did a great job of highlighting that project, talking about it as though it was an employment project, that they did for work, and really talking about how they made the most of their time when other things had gone away. And I think that employers love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think even just the example too, using COVID last year, where you're an HR professional, and we have been the leaders through a lot of different crises in our experiences, and in just as part of the nature of the role of human resources within organizations. And so what a great opportunity and time even to be able to be a resource for someone, even if it's not permanent, so you can continue to talk about how you're leveraging and building that experience for your next career.
Yeah, for sure. And even, if you feel like you're locked in your basement, I mean, get on YouTube and learn how to become an expert at Excel. Nobody ever lost a job because they were too good at Excel, or find out more about, data. I mean, these are the things that are really, cutting edge in HR. And no matter what your role is, those things are important to learn, and you're able to learn them even if you're not on the job.
Absolutely. So Nell, do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of some of those first steps that someone can take?
Yes, definitely. Now, this is something, the first one, your search is your current full-time job. This is something that we talk about with students all the time. Obviously, their real full-time job is being a student. But beyond that, if you come in August as a new LER student, you can't just say, I'm going to party this fall and think about it in the spring, or you've got yourself, in a bind. I think, like Erin said, you have to process and strategize. But now your search is your full-time job. You have to make a schedule. How many jobs are you going to apply for each day? How many people are you going to network with each week? What is the goal, and how do you make progress towards that goal every single day? And it could be what we were just talking about, learning something new or doing some gig work to stay fresh.
Right. Well, and I would add even to that too, around what I found that a lot of students have been really surprised by how much time of their day the job search process really takes.
Yes.
And that is totally normal. It absolutely does. It is your new full-time job. And like Nell said, I would really think about what are your key performance indicators right now. So if you think even around how marketing works, where you reach out maybe to an audience of 100,000 people, and you might be expecting to only hear 1% getting like really engaged with whatever that material is, which is kind of one of a normal statistic there. So what are some of those good stats then for you? So just because you applied to 3 jobs doesn't mean we're going to hear from one of them within 24 hours. And so start building up some of that momentum there, even in your search. What is your KPI per day that you know that you've been successful?
Absolutely. Updating your materials. I think everybody thinks about their resume. Don't forget about LinkedIn. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, helping with a job search. Hey, it's been a decade. I need to see more than just the company where you've worked. Let's, really talk about, and this is a great place to add information that you touch on in your resume, but you can't go in depth because nobody's going to read something in depth on your resume. What are your brand attributes that you really want to sell, and make sure that LinkedIn is going in depth in those areas. Additionally, use all of LER social media. We always are posting jobs. Other alumni are posting jobs. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And LinkedIn and Facebook both have private groups too, where we post a lot of jobs. Some of them are going to be early career, obviously, but it may be a lead and give you a thought on where to look. And in addition, on LinkedIn, show them that you're open to work. There's a place to click on your profile. There's a place to filter who you want to be able to see that. Everyone or just recruiters, as an example. The recruiters can filter what they're doing. They have a special LinkedIn account. They can filter what they're doing by people who are indicating to recruiters that they are open to work. So I think that's a great thing to not forget to do. Additionally, be sure that you're reading things, you're interacting with things, and you're networking while you're there, especially with your fellow grads.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, actually, one other thing that I should have said and didn't, if you are looking for help with your resume, you can always visit our site. Obviously, that's geared towards beginning LER students, but I think that there are some tips there that could help you get started. And then be sure you have a lot of people reading for content and those horrible typos that happen to the best of us.
Absolutely. And don't forget to reach out to your close network too. So you can let them know kind of what you're working through. What are some of the things? So after you've done all that reflection early on and you're starting to work on that full-time search, let people know what you're interested in, because we all know how some of those networks work, where sometimes jobs aren't posted, but there's still searches happening. So be sure that your network knows that you're out there. And from there, like Nell was saying, start expanding into the broader LER network for sure. I think one of the things that tends to really hold people back when it comes to networking is that it feels like we're outside holding a sign saying that we're open to work. And it feels like we're just asking somebody to hire us, when really in networking, especially in the power of networking within the LER alumni community, is just looking at, as you think about the types of positions, the type of experiences that you're wanting in that next role, what alum are out there that you might know or you might not know who have some of those experiences? Reach out, and what you might be asking isn't, hey, can I get a job there? Because what you're doing sounds awesome. But it instead sounds like, hey, this is something, I noticed that you have this type of experience, and this is something I'm really interested in going into. I'd love to hear more about your experience. So make it more about that other person and about building that relationship. You might be surprised at what you might be able to offer up to them as well for having that conversation. Sometimes asking for just 20 minutes of their time to learn about their story can give you a great little nugget of information to know, be able to plug in now to your search to know what you might need to do next as you're meeting with more and more people.
Yeah, if I would add there, I'm always drilling into students, when you're networking, make sure that you're going with more questions than you could possibly use, because I think there's nothing more frustrating to the person you're networking with than to have that call and just have dead air on the line. I think a good networker really gets the person they're talking to talking about themselves and really doesn't have to say much and can just learn. But if you don't have those questions and conversation starters, it can be frustrating for sure.
Well, and one of my favorite questions, feel free to steal away and use, I use it in every, most conversations, networking and within work anyway, is what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started with this organization? And what I have found in that is some magic within that question is that people will disclose to you the good, bad, and the ugly as well. So especially as you're considering different types of organizations and different types of roles, it's a really nice way to try to peel some layers back and really get down to the heart of what could matter for you in your next role. When it comes to, continuing to build your momentum too, start looking at the trends, follow what trends are happening within the industries. Are there experiences that are more and more required now that maybe you have some, but not entirely? So this could be an opportunity, like Nell was saying, there's YouTube videos out there, there's other types of courses and resources available to help get you at least some of the research, some of the information to understand what those trends are and how you might be able to speak to those as you're going through phone screens and as you're going through interviews. And finally, certainly practice interviewing. If it's been a while, then there's always a lot of times I've found that we've been on the receiving end, on the interviewer end of interviewing for a while. And so maybe it's time to start practicing as well as you're going through your own search. As you're looking at those job postings, what are the criteria? What are the experiences that certain organizations are looking for? And start planning out what questions could come from them as a result of that. Now, what would you add for interviewing?
Really, I think the networking will help you to become a better interviewer, but practice is the only place, and preparation. So doing your homework on the interviewer, if you can find out who that is, and definitely on the company, as much information as you can get. I think it's going to make it a better experience for you for sure.
Yeah. And finally, certainly consider online courses and certifications. So from my own personal experience, I did not do any of the SHRM, SCP, or any other type of certifications. But one of the things that I did do when I was actually going through my own job search after a job loss was say, you know what, this is the time I'm going to go back. I don't know if this is something that I will need in the future, but this is a good way for me to stay sharp and for me to really be able to explain and speak to some of the ways that I'm continuing to develop and continuing to grow throughout my experience, knowing that I don't know how long I might be in this period. And so I went through and studied and went through one of the certifications for that during that time. And I will say, it has proven to be helpful. I hadn't been in a situation for 10 plus years at that point where I had to study like that. And so it was a nice exercise as well to kind of get myself into a bit of a crunch situation there. Nell, anything you would add there?
Yeah, so LER's online program has just put forth some certification. So even if you have the degree already, you can go back and look, in comp or in data. Chances are we didn't even have a data class when you were here, and now we're going to offer a certification. So if there's an area that would help you, granted, it's not going to be something you can complete on your own in a week and be done, but you can commit to it and, a couple of months later, have that finished. It does fall in lockstep with the online courses that we're offering for our online students. So it's not something that just happens and you're finished, but it's something that you can advertise that you realize that was an area that you needed to brush up on, and you're taking these classes and getting a certification from a Big 10 university. So that may be a possibility as well.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that there's, hopefully that this has been helpful just to get your wheels turning as you're going through this transition and working through this. And Nell, do you want to share a little bit more around kind of even what student or what some of our alum can do if they continue to have some additional questions after listening?
I think if you have additional questions, I think, definitely work that network and feel free to reach out as well. We may be able to help point you in the correct direction. Maybe we've heard of people who are doing the thing that you want to do, or who live in the area where you want to live, or who are in that industry. And, if it's not somebody that's already in your LinkedIn network, we might be able to make that introduction and help you take some next steps. And certainly when we introduce you to that person, be sure you're always asking them for one more person to talk to every time you network.
Exactly. Well, very good. We hope this was helpful.
Definitely. Good luck in your search. Don't be too stressed out.
Thank you.